Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and we're back out here in my hot garage, which, by the way, I'm sorry if you hear the sound of a fan. I have it blowing on me because inside the garage today, it's in the lower to mid 90s, and it is a little bit steamy in here. So you'll have to deal with that little hum in the background. But I wanted to make a video regarding a great question I got on my main channel on one of my range reports regarding a viewer noticing that every time I load a pistol, when I insert the magazine, instead of pushing down the slide lock or the slide release, I always pull the slide back and let it go home. And I wanted to address that question because I think it is an interesting observation that some people make. And I have discovered the people that ask this question often are newer to firearms, or they've seen a lot of movies and television shows. And I think that they believe that is the best way to do it. Now, I do want to give a caveat that I am not claiming to be an expert on this, okay? I shoot guns the way that I shoot guns. I do not look down upon anybody that does things any different than I do. I am not claiming that I know everything or that my way is the best. I just know that for me and my style of shooting, this is what works for me. And I wanted to explain the 3 reasons why. So, first of all, most pistols, semi-automatic pistols, have either a slide lock or a slide release. But notice I said most. Now, when I am shooting and reviewing so many firearms, I like to keep things as consistent as possible between all different models. So if I am shooting a 1911 like this one here, or I'm shooting a Walther PPK, I want the same manual of arms and the same things that are consistent to be able to be applied to everything. So in the case of a Walther PPK, it doesn't have a slide release or a slide lock. Well, it does, but it's internal. It doesn't have anything externally like this pistol here. So in order for you to close the slide on on a magazine that is loaded, so if the slide is locked back, pretend this is a Walther PPK and I'm wearing a tuxedo like James Bond. And you take the magazine, you insert it, you simply pull the slide back, the slide will go home and load that first round. Now, with a gun like this that does have a slide release or a slide lock, if this magazine was loaded, I could insert it and pull the slide back, the slide would go home all the same. So it's the same muscle memory for both firearms. Now, there are a few outliers to this. One of them are some competition 2011s that are made today that do not lock open after the last round in a magazine. You can manually lock them open, but for the most part, they don't lock open automatically. And so if you end up going empty on a magazine, which you're not supposed to in competition on those guns, but you might, when you load the next magazine, you can't over-insert it. And then in order for you to load that first round into the chamber, you have to rack the slide, pull it all the way back, and let it go home. You also have guns that are like this, the HK4. This is HK's first pistol ever, and it kind of looks like a PPK. It does not have an external slide lock, and this is going to be the one outlier to all the guns that I show and mention today, because this one does not work the same. So, and it's what's honestly kind of weird about this, and when I take this to the range actually today, it's something I'm going to have to mentally be aware of to make sure I don't make a mistake on camera. Because let's pretend I loaded this magazine and the slide is locked open. And yes, this gun will lock open when you pull the slide back even if there's no magazine inserted. If I put a loaded magazine in this gun, when I insert it and it gets past a certain point without me doing anything to it, it will close the slide. And if the slide is locked open, the other way to close it is to pull the trigger. Now that would not fire the gun, because the hammer remains cocked. So this is definitely a big outlier. So that's why this one's going to be a little bit harder for me to film, because I have so much muscle memory on always pulling the slide back on any semi-automatic pistol to load it. But that's going to work 99.9% of the time, with the exception of weirdos like this one. So consistency of muscle memory is reason number one. Reason number two, you might notice that some manufacturers use two terms interchangeably. In fact, I've used these terms interchangeably in this video. Slide lock and slide release. Some gun companies make pistols with slide locks. Some of them make them with slide releases. They look the same, and for the most part, they function the same. The only thing I can think of that really is a determining factor on which is which is the amount of energy required to push the lever down to have it slip out of the notch in the slide to close it. Now, when I load pistols this way, I used to get people that would say you're damaging the gun. It's not designed to do that. And honestly, I do kind of agree with that, because you could have premature wear on the parts, like the slide release or the slide stop, and that notch within the slide. And some people say it's not good. Now, some guns are designed for it, but you can't always get that information in the owner's manual, okay? Or it's not just common knowledge, because it really kind of seems to be spotty on which guns do which. So I have a couple other guns out here to show you the difference. Now, this is a Springfield Armory subcompact 1911 chambered in .45. Now, I've always looked at 1911s typically as having slide releases, which are the ones that are easier to actuate. Now, I'm not going to do this a bunch. I know some people are going to say, you can't do that very... I'm only going to do it a couple times, okay, guys? So right now I don't have any magazine in the gun. But if I wanted to drop the slide, I could have my thumb reach up here to the lever. You see how easy that is? And I know that this looks really cool on camera when you watch TV and TV shows and movies, and you watch the guys do that, or the gals do that. It looks really cool. You see John Wick doing it. I think you see... one of my favorite television openings of all time is the old Magnum PI with Tom Selleck, and I know there's a thing where he has a 1911, he loads it, and it just goes like that. It looks really cool. But in my opinion, that's not the best way to do it. But with a slide release, you can do that, okay? Now, even with the magazine in the gun, which is having upwards pressure on that slide release, I can still close it with not a lot of effort. So in my opinion, this gun has a slide release. Now let's take a look at this SIG P226 X5 Reserve. Man, that is a beautiful gun. And I'm only going to do this one time, okay? But when the slide is locked open, in my personal opinion, this is a slide lock. Because number one, see how small this is? You can reach it with your thumb, but it's very tiny as compared to the slide release on a 1911. That tells me that maybe they don't indicate it to be used that way, where you reach up here and drop it. No, can you? Absolutely 100%. Absolutely. But, in my opinion, it requires so much more energy. So, if I wanted to drop the slide, I'm pushing down on that slide release, more energy, more... Okay, it finally went. It doesn't feel smooth to me. This, in my opinion, is a slide lock. So I believe they intend you to use the gun when it's open like this, insert the magazine. Now there would be no upwards pressure from the follower onto that lever. You can simply pull the slide back. Now, of course, right now I'm pushing down on that lever, but if you pull the slide back, it releases that lever and the gun would go home. So with a gun that has a slide lock, you're really supposed to pull the slide back. Now, you can push it down to give you extra confidence that it's going to be out of the way when the slide goes home, but it functions the same way, but it's harder to use. And even with the magazine in the gun, with that upwards pressure, that is a lot more energy. So this has a slide release, this has a slide lock. They look the same, they function the same, but when you're trying to shoot fast, or if you were in a self-defense need or scenario, what if you have a gun that really has a slide lock and you don't have a lot of time to go like this, and the adrenaline's pumping, your finger slips, whatever it is, and that's the way you load your handgun, you might be in for a world of hurt because you are trying to load your gun and it's not working. You're fumbling with the gun, and that could cost you your life. It could also cause malfunctions. Okay, so reason number 2, there's a difference between slide locks and slide releases, and if I pull the slide back, regardless of which one I have on the pistol, they're going to work the same. Number 3, reliability. So let's go back to the 1911 that I have here. So when any gun is locked back with either the slide release or the slide lock, it's actually not as far back as the slide can go. So when I lock this slide back, you'll notice that I can push the slide even further. Of course, it will unlock that lever. Well, there it goes, there. So there it would go forward. It barely moves, but you can see I can push that slide back even further. Okay? Now, why is that? Well, because guns are designed to have a certain amount of recoil to give you the most amount of energy, velocity, and inertia to pick off that first round in a magazine that is completely topped off. So if I had this magazine all the way loaded, slide is all the way back, I insert it into the gun. If I push down on this slide release, I am not actually giving the gun its full ability to have all the energy it needs to pick off that first round. Now, will it load? I would say it's going to load 98% of the time. 98% of the time. But if you want it to be even more reliable than that, especially in a self-defense scenario, if the magazine was loaded, I insert it, I pull the slide back, now it has that little bit of extra energy. There's more energy stored in the recoil spring. When I let it go, it's going to go home with more velocity, more energy, and pick up that first round or the round of the magazine the way it's really intended to. Now, why do I say that's the way it's intended to? Well, think about when you're shooting the gun. When I shoot this gun and the slide reciprocates, it doesn't just go back to where the point in travel is where the slide lock would be engaged. It goes all the way back where the slide essentially hits the frame. It's all the way back. Now, all of the energy is stored in that spring, and now it goes forward. So in my personal opinion, it's going to be more reliable. I have had problems when I was a much younger shooter and a much younger man, when I tried to do the cool Magnum PI load or whatever, the cool Bruce Willis or whatever, you load the magazine and boop. I've had it happen many times where I do that and I get either a failure to chamber, or I might get like a weird, where the round starts to like try to be ejected. I've never really had that issue as often when I pull the slide all the way back. So it's either like a failure to feed, a failure to chamber, some type of weird malfunction because the spring is not fully charged with potential energy. Some guns, this is a bigger deal than others. As you saw with this 1911, it's not that much further back behind the slide stop or the slide release, but I think in this SIG, oh yeah, look at the travel on this one. So on this one, see if I can get it here on camera. Well, here, my hand slipped. Let me do it this way, because this finish is so beautiful. But here, the slide is locked open. Man, look how much further that slide can travel. And it's designed that way on purpose. So, the reason I always, unless it's a weird outlier gun like the HK4, The reason when I have a firearm that's open and I put in a loaded magazine, my go-to way to load it is to pull the slide back and let it go home. Number one, it's consistent across so many platforms. It is much more reliable, and regardless if the gun has a slide stop or a slide release, it still functions the same way. And if I try to do it the other way and the gun has a slide lock, what if I slip? It's going to slow me down, and it doesn't look good on camera, obviously. I look like an idiot, well, more than I normally do. But it could slow down my magazine change, where if I have a consistent, always pull the slide back, let it go home, it's the same across all platforms. And honestly, this, I think, is just as fast as this. Because even when I push down the slide release or the slide lock, I'm still having to contort my hand a little bit to get to it. Like that, I'm having to move my trigger finger off the trigger a little bit to rotate to get it where I get a nice, good, I guess we'll say purchase or contact with that lever. So then I have to readjust again. But if I use my non-shooting hand to rack the slide, my hand on the pistol remains the same. It never has to adjust. So it's easy for me to get the gun back on target, and I don't have to change anything about the way that I'm holding the gun. So those are my 3 reasons on why I shoot the way that I do. I am sure that some of you do things different for whatever reason. I in no way am judging you. I am in no way saying that what you do is wrong. If it works for you, it's the way that you were trained, it's the way that you're comfortable with, by all means, please continue doing that. But I wanted to explain my perspective, and I hope that I gave reasons. You know, one of the things that I think is really important, and I guess it's just the teacher in me, when I explain things to students, I want to make sure that they not only understand the how or the what, they also understand the why. I don't like people and students that go through life doing things just because it's the way they were taught. Well, why were you taught that way? I don't know. It's just this is the way this certain special trainer tells me to do it. Why? It's fast, and he does it fast. Okay, speed. What else? Explain the whole process to me. Now, you are free to disagree with any or all of my reasons for what I do and the way that I do it. But you cannot deny I haven't thought about it and don't have logical reasons for why I do it. So now we can have the debate. So there you go. So let me know in the comment section what you think of my reasons for how I load a firearm in my reviews, and tell me, do you do things the same or do you do them differently, and tell me why. All right, I think that's a good video for today and answered a really good question. So if you made it to the end of this video, the word of the day is going to be, it's going to be 2. You either have to use the word release or the word stop, and try to tell me if you use or prefer a gun with a slide release or a slide stop, or do you think they're the same thing, or are they different? I'd love to know. So, as always, thanks for watching.